Recording in progress.
Okay, I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. All rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have roll call?
Councilmember Murray.
Present.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Mayor Matsumoto Wright.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Here.
Councilmember Sonmore.
Here.
Councilmember Woodard.
Here.
Thank you. Next is public comment. I think we have at least one.
All right, we do have one person, Travis. So you'll have 5 minutes and you can speak there.
Is that too low for you? We'll raise the whole thing up.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. To provide a little bit of context as to why I've decided to make a comment today, I'll start by mentioning that
We need to have your name and your address.
Okay. My name's Travis Wickendall, and I live at 4404 212th Street Southwest. That is Northern Lights Apartments. And in December of last year, I suffered a roughly 6% increase in rent. And that sort of set me off a path of research as to the issue of why rent is as expensive as it is and what some of the underlying reasons are for that. My comments shouldn't take 5 minutes because I'm not speaking with specificity on the items of the agenda, but the tie-in will come a little later. And the overwhelming conclusion that I, as a non-economist, as someone who hasn't participated in any meaningful way in city government, came to so far from this research is that the affordability crisis in housing in our community and others across the nation is driven by a scarcity in affordable housing where it is desired. On today's agenda in the meeting, the council will consider increases to the salaries of elected officials. I am not dispositionally against having adequately compensated elected officials and civic leaders. I think that people whose work is as important as yours deserve a very comfortable level of compensation. But my main concern is that the funding mechanism for that increase will be coming from an anticipated increase in property taxes. The way that I assess the situation right now is that landlords will almost certainly be passing on that increase in the cost to maintaining their properties to tenants. And basically, while I don't oppose this anticipated increase, again, this is sort of a spur of the moment visit that I'm making to the city council today. I'm worried about the consequences that will have. The consequence of rent increases, even very minor ones, can be eviction for people who are vulnerable. It can be displacement, and across the board, even for people with medium incomes like myself, it leads to a decrease in standard of living. So I sort of have a very vague request to the council, which is just that this issue of housing affordability be front and center, that it be on everyone's minds when we look at making adjustments to the tax base, and that the council exercise the greatest possible creativity and energy in tackling this problem. If I can be a little more specific, I am not fond of zoning laws that impose blanket restrictions on housing density. I would like to see a greater supply of high density or medium density apartment buildings throughout the city. I think that that would make it more difficult for landlords to do what I mentioned they are most certain to do, which is to pass on increased costs due to property taxes to tenants. That's the extent of my commentary. Thank you.
Are we going to respond to this? I thought we don't respond.
I suppose if I didn't know I'd be taking questions, but okay.
Go ahead.
So we're not supposed to comment, so, but thank you for speaking, but I'll bring it up under council comments later.
Mm-hmm. We do have someone in the online audience who'd like to speak.
All right.
Hi, am I on?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jack Malik. I'm a resident of the city of Shoreline. I've been a resident for 21 years. I had been a planning commissioner for 8 years, and I'm, active in a lot of the local community, the Shoreline Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club, all that. I'm a realtor as well, and I am working with Steve Cho, an attorney who has a property from Time Oil under contract over on 56th Avenue. So it's, forgive me, I don't have the address in front of me. I had it all printed out and I don't have it with me. So 22 something or other to 22 something or other, 56th. And it is a lovely property. It's a piece of land and it needs a lot of cleanup. We've been in contract for 2 years working through feasibility. There are 22,000 documents in 22 folders. Over 21 gigabytes of data that we've been reviewing, along with the attorney on the other side, Foster Garvey, and some other folks. The DOE has come back to us recently and said that, well, yeah, for the first 2 years, we had planned to expedite this for you and help you get through your feasibility and get done within a 3-year term, and then submit, have a pre-app meeting and submit permits, that type of thing. And really rehabilitate this property and develop it into a really, nice law office. Unfortunately, that's not the case. They have decided, the DOE has decided not to go that route and to just kind of put it on a back burner of sorts. Maybe not that as much, but they will not expedite, and they'll just take it, in turn as they can. Why I'm reaching out to you is I just want to first of all call attention to this, because I just think that it's too costly for us to remain in contract, and even for Time Oil to remain in contract with us without any kind of hope of a timeline to put this thing together. We're right at the edge of your town center development. We think we'll do something really complementary to your vision there. We like Mountlake Terrace quite a bit. I certainly do. I was part of that whole Clearview with Dwayne Landsverk and that vertically structured group he had. I think it's fantastic what you've done there, but I also think that, this is a travesty and we could use your support. So I'm just calling attention to this, looking for any kind of, review that you could maybe call attention to, or anybody in your public works and planning division to make aware of this, that if there's any way to expedite this through the DOE, the Department of Ecology, that would be really helpful. We are working with Foster Garvey, Deborah Crabb, and again, the buyer side is Steve Cho. He's also an attorney. And we have Howard Jensen, one of the most premier people for, cleanups, oil cleanups that there are working with us. So I just hope that we can make some inroads and push this forward as planned. It's already been 2 long years, and to try and add more to that just seems unnecessary. So if nothing else, just information would really help the process. The ultimate would be to expedite this and get this thing moving so that we can get you something really beautiful there and start to, make use of that really lovely piece of property. So thank you. Thanks for listening.
We have another person who wishes to speak, Steve Cho.
Hi, yes, this is Steve Cho. I'm the person who's has a property under contract. The exact address is 24205 56th Avenue West, Mountlake Terrace. So I have applied with Department of Ecology to get the property under expedited VCP, voluntary cleanup program. And they have decided that it was too complex. Therefore, it doesn't qualify for voluntary cleanup program. So if that doesn't qualify, then I'm told that the TOC's bankruptcy attorney said that TOC would need to abandon the property, which will mean that no one will be able to clean up the property, and the property will remain as brown field for a very long time. So I think it's in the interest of everyone involved, both myself and the TOC, and then City of Mountlake Terrace. So I have scheduled, I'm trying to schedule another, a meeting with Ecology. And one of the things that I wanted to see is if I could get some support from the city, because I think it's in the interest of the community to have that property that remained vacant and as a brownfield for past 10 years or more. So that's why I found out that you have a meeting today, and Jack told me about it, and then I rushed to join, and then see if there's any way that when I meet with the Ecology in next week or so, that I could tell them about the city's position as well. So that way, try to persuade them into accepting this, a property under their VCP program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have the city manager get a hold of you later. Do we have anyone else?
That's it for public comment.
Thank you. So next on our agenda is the consent calendar. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve the consent calendar items A through F.
Second.
Susan moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Just a few items this evening to report on. The upcoming city council member candidates who have applied for the position are scheduled, or in the process of finalizing schedules, for the evening of the 30th and 31st to be interviewed by the 6 of you on the council. I have heard back from 3 of you on the proposed interview questions, so I would like to hear back from the other 3, but we're close to being able to finalize the questions to meet council's expectations for those interviews. So please let me know if you would. And we are going through the qualification process to make sure that all the candidates meet the qualifications as required by state law in terms of the minimum age of 18, being a resident and a registered voter, and also having no felonies in their background. So we're going through that process as we speak. The second item I wanted to bring to council's attention is just an update about staff relations in terms of flexible scheduling. I've come to the conclusion with a number of employees who have met with me that part of the reason we've had difficulty attracting new employees is that we are not as flexible as some of the other cities in the area are in terms of scheduling. Our salaries are also may have been a concern, although with the new budget, I think maybe that's less of a concern. And now that the pandemic is somewhat over, most cities are still engaged in some remote work opportunities for employees on a managed basis so that it's not being taken advantage of. And so we're in the process over the last couple of weeks of reviewing the policies that we have in place and meeting with employees and having department directors propose what makes the most sense for their departments to allow for some schedule flexibility for employees. Please understand that a priority will always be coverage, so that there will be coverage at the public counters and to take phone calls from the public without question. So we are not looking at any steps that would compromise our availability to get the job done and to provide the coverage. But we do want to provide for the kind of flexibility that other municipal employers do utilize, and I do believe very strongly that we will see a benefit in terms of productivity and in terms of staff morale. And even though I'm here for a fairly short time, I'm wanting to do what I can to improve those things as we move forward. So that's an update, and I'd be happy at any point to answer questions either offline or this evening about that. Next item is just an update that I think you're all aware that the Association of Washington Cities has their action conference next month on the 15th and 16th in Olympia. I think a number of you have signed up. I know that the city clerk has scheduled lodging for some of you, and so if you haven't yet gotten back to her to confirm that, please do so. Fourthly, our federal lobbyist has proposed in order to provide maximum support to some of the federal grants that the city is in the process of applying for, that the city take a DC trip or a lobbying trip, if you will, to spend a day in DC sometime in the next few months. We're focusing on March and April, and there's a specified list of dates that I think we've distributed. And so what would be helpful to me this evening would be to have a sense as to which council members would be best to participate in that kind of process, since we need to schedule that soon. I think that the lobbyist is proposing that there would be either one or two council members would be sufficient for the kind of meetings that we're talking about, probably accompanied by either this city manager or the next city manager. However, not sure, Madam Mayor, what is the normal process for deciding how best to, which one of you would like to do that in terms of who's available, who's interested, and how the council would decide how that's done. So that's essentially a question on my part is, can the council help me determine who would be the best to participate in a DC trip that needs to get scheduled fairly quickly?
In the past, it's usually been the mayor and mayor pro tem.
Okay, in the past it's been the mayor and mayor pro tem.
It varied, but that's...
Okay.
And one year we had several others join us, but it hasn't always been that way.
Okay. And again, I talked to the lobbyist earlier, and it's his preference would be to keep the numbers small in terms of the arranging of these meetings. So, the number of one or two is. So I'm If the custom is the mayor and mayor pro tem, that's fine. I just want to make sure that the council's aware that that's the direction in case there's a desire to do something different.
Go ahead, Councilmember Samor.
I was trying to remember, Rick was involved in it. We had an audition. I think that was when we were in Olympia, though. We had to audition the questions in front of the lobbyists on how we would respond. Do you remember doing that? Yeah. That was another way of what we had to do.
I don't remember that. I remember talking to the city manager about it, and then it never went anywhere, and we never went anywhere.
Okay. So is it acceptable then to pursue the mayor and pro tem as the lead right now? So I will proceed with that. Just wanted to make sure that that was acceptable to the members of the council. So I'm assuming if I check in with your schedule, Madam Mayor, and Councilmember Wall as well, we can confirm dates. Hopefully we don't have to necessarily do it this evening, but the sooner the better.
My dates were all okay, all the dates that came to.
Right, I saw all of the March and April dates, and so.
And I responded also earlier, but we can talk about it after.
Okay, fine. So I perhaps didn't see your response. Okay, so we've taken care of that. I appreciate that. And my last issue is, and Madam Mayor, brought this to my attention earlier, but our state lobbyist has given us a report, an update on the legislative session after week one, essentially. There was a question that actually came from the media on, Madam Mayor, and I know you're familiar with this, House Bill 1110, which is regarding middle housing. And apparently, from what we understand, a neighboring city of Edmonds is taking a position to oppose it. I've been told that the city of Bothell is taking a position to support it. The Association of Washington Cities is essentially monitoring or flagging the issue as an important issue, and they don't want to take a position right now because they want to continue to be part of the conversation. So I think the question for all of you, with perhaps a pending article in the Everett paper, is does the city want to take a position one way or the other at this point on that House bill? It was summarized in the email that was sent from our lobbyists through Stephen Clifton to all of you, and it again has to do with requirements for middle housing, and I can read through a brief summary if that's helpful, unless you all know enough that you would like to either take a position one way or the other, or no position at all. And so, Madam Mayor, did you want to add anything to that?
No, do you want to say what you said to me earlier? Because that will probably be my answer. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this is a very, and it's interesting to hear that, Edmonds on one hand is opposing and Bothell is supporting, and I applaud Bothell for being willing to stand up and say yes to this. This is a challenging issue, and I think that I'm assuming that our council is probably even divided on where we may be on this position, which is why maybe we need to stand back and let it play out. Potentially, I would say support with concerns. Others would say probably oppose with recognition that we need to address the housing challenge. But this is, I think we all recognize that housing, as was pointed out earlier in public comments, we need to address housing. We have a crisis on our hands, and we all need to collectively address it. We need to, at the local level, make housing options more affordable and available, and we need to do our part. Every city needs to do their part. And the reason this legislation is before us is because too many cities have not been doing their part. But it is basically a state preemption and taking away control of zoning decisions at the local level. And so it's a local control issue. And so while, the question is who should be addressing this issue, who has the best handle on how to address housing at the local level? Well, obviously, local community leaders should be making those decisions. But the challenge is, and again, the reason we have this legislation is because we collectively, as local officials, have not stepped up to the plate and done the job that we need to do to make sure that there is a housing supply available at affordable rates. And so we need to do better. And somebody has to force this issue, and we probably need to, some of us feel strongly that we need to support this kind of legislation because local communities have not done their job in stepping up and addressing this. At the same time, it is taking away local control and local decisions that is more properly made at the local level. So my suggestion would be support with concerns. But that's, again, probably depending on what other council members feel, and because it is a challenging legislation and difficult legislation, that maybe we just take a no position until, I guess, and see how it plays out, because it is a priority that needs to be addressed and is going to go through the legislative process to the very end. And so it'll be interesting to see what the sausage-making factory does to get to see what comes out in the end.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for, I think, a great overview of kind of how we've gotten to where we are and where we are at. And I know, at least I didn't walk into today's meeting with the idea that we were going to be talking about this. And so I don't know where other folks kind of stand as far as their readiness to have this conversation. But I will say broadly, we have been talking about the fact that housing affordability and homelessness and all of the associated factors that go with the fact that we do not have enough housing to house the people in our community and in our region ripples across all things. And we have said that I know that each and every one of us want to make a difference there. And I think we have, by and large, acknowledged that that is not something that we can do as an individual community, and that we have done a lot of that work. And I think people often point to the work that we have done in Mountlake Terrace to look at ways to increase our housing density, particularly around upcoming, light rail, as an example. It is a regional issue that we can't fix alone in Mountlake Terrace. And so while I think oftentimes we are the closest to a lot of the issues that we approach in our communities being on city councils, I also think there are times that we have to look at how we collectively come together with other communities and as a region and as a state to address things that we cannot address alone. And I do think that housing is one of those issues. And I think it's the reason why we see so many really diverse groups and people coming together to bring bills forward this legislative session. I will say that, so my CEO at the Seattle Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce spoke on behalf of this bill today, and that is in part because everything from our ability to hire folks, a lot of our ability to hire folks at our city itself hinges on the fact that it is prohibitively expensive to live here, and it gets more and more expensive every single year, as we heard about earlier. And if we don't take action, these are conversations that we have been having for decades. And if we do not take action, it's going to continue to get worse. So I would very much, I think, fall in the same place as Mayor Pro Tem, where, I think there is lots to be seen as far as kind of where things land, and I want to make sure that we understand the impacts on how any legislation, you know, kind of interplays with what we've already passed. And I think particularly when we have zoned for higher density, making sure that this doesn't potentially impact some of the work we've done in the town center in particular. But by and large, I'm very supportive of us moving forward and supporting ways to find solutions and being part of the solution versus standing here and saying that we know that there's an issue, but not being part of the solution to find the issue and move forward with the solution. So I guess I'm happy to, I guess, weigh in or not weigh in, but, you know, based on where other folks are at. But I do think that, you know, ultimately we are doing a lot of the right things here in our community, and I would love to see us make progress as a region so that we can address these issues. I would love my children to be able to live near me someday. You know, as somebody who could not afford, when I bought a house, couldn't afford to buy in the neighborhood that I grew up in, you know, and we see kind of generationally, you know, folks move further and further out. Those aren't options with the Growth Management Act. Like, we can't just keep developing further and further out, and we're gonna have to find solutions, and I would love to be part of that solution here in our community and as a council.
All right, do we have anyone else? So, I don't know what more to say, but I thought that when he calls me tomorrow, I would just say that, you know, we have a divided council on this issue, and and he can put it that way, that we haven't made any decisions.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're referring to our council as a divided council is a necessary thing to say, because
Well, it's not a divided council, it's that I haven't heard from everybody in support, so.
Yeah, and that's the point I was about to make is you know, for the city to take a stance on a legislative proposal really requires a consensus by council that the city wants to do that. And in this case, as I said, some cities are opposing, some are supporting, but the association that we belong to, Association of Washington Cities, is they're not really calling it a neutral stance, but they're monitoring the bill and not jumping onto one side or the other because they want to be a part of the conversation going forward. So perhaps the city of Mountlake Terrace could align itself with the Association of Washington Cities and continue to monitor the situation with the understanding that the housing issue is a priority for the city. And so that's, again, that's up to the council on a policy decision like that in terms of what to say. Do any other members want to weigh in?
Councilmember Woodard?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to be clear. I am reserving my conversation to nothing right now because I'm seeing this for the first time. I did not see an email earlier. Some of us had a very busy weekend, so if this just popped up in the spirit of my radar, not the world's radar, it's hard for me to intelligently say how I feel. That said, I trust we've been having this conversation that's been spoken, and if members of this council feel like this aligns with what we've said, I do not think I'm going to come out and say, no, don't do this. But at this point, I can only point to the two things here that it says, parking and parking. And so I'm thinking, there's got to be more to it than that, but that's what's listed here, so I'd rather get a chance to read the bill myself and get a better feel for who's saying what. But I wouldn't call myself divided. I would call myself not as informed as I would like to be. And I will correct that very soon.
Councilmember Summer, did you have your hand up earlier?
No, I was just going to echo Steve. It's kind of a surprise, so if we didn't have a chance to read it beforehand, we'd like some more time to look at it. But the neutral stance for this moment sounds like the place to be.
Councilmember Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor. I remember months ago, this idea was brought up to us. I don't like the idea that it's controlling our zoning. And the reason for that isn't just because we lose control of our city to some degree, but it could sacrifice our present community and citizens to accommodate it. In other words, we have certain areas that are single-family housing. This would make it where you could have 4 units per lot in their single-family area. That's what I'm reading here. So I'd need to do a little bit more studying on it. I think I'm kind of like Council Member Woodard and Sonmore, in that I'd have to kind of study this a bit, because it's kind of philosophical in that a couple things for me is that we keep talking about we need more units, but there is a difference, and we need more affordability, but there is a difference between density and affordability. And they do talk about affordability in here, but to whose loss and to whose gain? I see a gain in there and I see a loss. So I'd have to study this a little bit more. I know our city's small in that we're 4 square miles. And when you have a lot of people moving into our area, especially with aviation and jobs in that, it'd be nice to have a place for them to live, and I think we're working that way. I think our city's doing a pretty good job with the Gateway area, our apartments in Town Center, what we're doing with Town Center. So I think we are doing something to help out with apartments. And then that's a philosophical thing, you know. When you have a lot of people in apartments, they aren't building any equity. So then what's that doing to our city, county, and state when you're not building any equity? I think that people need to start kind of thinking about that, because I didn't have enough money just to come in and buy a house. I had to stair step and build money to get a down payment on a house. So, and I know a lot of people my age, I won't tell you how old I am. I'm younger than 150. But anyway, I bought a mobile home. That's how I got in to get equity. I got out of the rat race with the rent and the raising of rents all the time, and I bought a mobile home. And I lived in it for 3 years and sold it, and that was my down payment to buy a house here. So, but it's tough when you have a flood, a population flood coming in, and then we're forced to make decisions that I bet you a lot of our citizens that are in single-family units, houses, if you told them some of this, I think they'd be really upset. It'd be nice to take a poll on where we are, who lives here now, because I think, you know, our citizens that make a sacrifice in their communities to accommodate, especially this thing here. So I'd say it's still philosophical. I don't know what else I could say. I'm going to have to study it a little bit more, because the main thing is density versus affordability. All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
So definitely at this time, I would not support this.
All right. So that's probably my answer to the person who's going to be calling tomorrow. I think that our city has already done a lot of this, and so we're not the problem city.
We have to do more.
We have to do more, but we're not the problem city. Oh, okay. Do I need to repeat that? Did you have something?
I think that's a good point. We are not the problem city. We've always been one of the densest cities in the whole state. We used to talk about that for years, but But I was just sidebarring a comment with Brian, but if they take away from local authority, I'm against that. But since we talked a little bit about housing, you know, we do have multifamily and the tax increment that we've given builders so they don't have to pay taxes for like 8 years on their property. And that property, so the builders are getting incentives, and we're trying our best to do what we can in our city to, and that's very important if you're interested in learning about that. It's called tax exemption or multi-property tax, and that's how builders are encouraged to build. And the one thing, we don't have any rent controls. We can't control rent. And we talked a little bit, I'll talk about that one in my report, but so a lot of times our hands are tied. It would be nice if the state had their own building association and they came in and they built at a certain price and we negotiated over land over a certain price, but a lot of it comes down to supply and demand, and it is very frustrating, and we've talked about it a lot, but I do appreciate public comments earlier today, and I'll stop there.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, thank you. And I know you were concerned about what, if anything, to say to a reporter writing an article about one of our neighboring cities opposing the bill. And I don't believe it puts us in any kind of disadvantage not to take a position at this point instead of having mixed messages. This bill will, the discussion will move forward. AWC will continue to be involved in the discussion, and then we'll see what happens. But at this point, you know, officially, I don't sense that there's a position that the city wants to take with formality. And so unless there are questions for me, that would conclude my report at this time.
Are there any questions for the city manager? All right, thank you. Next is the council liaison reports, and let's start over there with Councilmember Woodard.
Thank you, Mayor. I've already talked to the city clerk and say I will hand her this sheet when I'm done so her fingers don't burn out. And I would love to tell you that I didn't burn out, but that's probably only half true. It's been a long 2 weeks. So beginning on the 4th, I had my city manager meeting, and I look forward to our next one, all things considered. Later that day, I had the opportunity to attend the Sky Valley State of the State. That's 7 cities that sit up in the Monroe area, a little bit further north up Highway 2 there. Sultan, Gold Bar, Skykomish, and I believe Index were able to send their mayors and report. I bring that up just as a reminder that I guess we used to do a state of the state or a state of the city, and I would just encourage us to consider the question, why not us, again, meaning that it might be time, especially with all that's going on, lots of changes and lots on the horizon. This might be the perfect year, 2023, to bring that back, especially with the advent or the resource of the internet. You don't have to bring people at all. You could maybe even do it just recorded. The next day on the 5th, we had our regional fire RFA meeting amongst ourselves. I thought that went very well, and you saw that play out later in the week. On the 11th, I realized I did have a question for the city manager, and I just saved it here. I was all set for a coffee with the city, and we did not have one. I don't need a response right now because I know it didn't happen, but I would just like to say I strongly encourage you to join that legacy. I think it'd be wonderful to have you address our residents in the status that you're in now, and keeps the window of engagement open. There's lots of questions online, and we always want to give them an opportunity to share, which I will also echo. Thank you, sir, for coming in today and taking the time out of your busy schedule in presenting and even sticking around. I appreciate that as well. But Coffee with the City, I always look forward to it, even though I just listen, because we're not really supposed to engage, much like public comments here. On the 12th, we had another version of the RFA, where the RFA members, we met with South County Fire's subcommittee, their intergovernmental group, I believe is what they're called, which included there quite a few folks. Most important there, from our perspective perhaps, is the commissioners to see how they felt about our upcoming decisions in front of us to annex, not annex, or kick the can down the road annex is what I would call that one. And I thought that went well. And then later that night, we were able to discuss it a little bit more at the study session, which I was able to attend. And then the next day, the 13th, I had the opportunity to participate up in Everett with the Snohomish County Black Heritage Committee. It was MLK weekend of service, and kicked off that Friday for us with a march and a rally. We had about 150 people in person, and we live streamed. I had the opportunity to represent us. I gave the land acknowledgement and opening remarks, and was followed by Representative Larson, who, if you follow him on Facebook, just posted about that himself, which was wonderful to have him in the space. The next day, a group called Access Think Tank, which is Association for Collective Community Engagement on Safety and Security. We've talked about them before. Our goal is to, if not end, at least significantly reduce youth violence. It was an amazing opportunity, all-day experience over at Edmonds College with our mayor in attendance, our DEI chair, William, in attendance, and a number of other civic leaders. We spent the entire day together looking at and engaging in an experience called Alternatives to Violence program, who actually came to our Mountlake Terrace library and then to Bethesda church nearby here to do a workshop. So they did a workshop for us just to see what that's like, the tools that they're able to use. Thought that was an excellent use of time and energy. The next day, I rejoined the Snohomish County Black Heritage Committee for their long-standing, I believe it was well into their 30th year, MLK celebration. And once again, I got the opportunity to represent us. I presented the land acknowledgement, and then I stewarded the Prodigies for Peace competition or contest. And real briefly on that, and just something for us to think about down here, is the Prodigies for Peace focuses on their school district and their school students. So 3rd grade to 12th grade, they answered a prompt, or they did an art interpretation of a prompt on basically what MLK and peace means to them. I was also one of the judges for that, and it was just wonderful to have these young people present in front of a very large group, once again about 150 people on site, and live streamed. And I mean, to have those 3rd graders up there and present better than some of us can, in my opinion, myself included, it was amazing. There was one funny moment. If you know anything about catching the Holy Ghost, well, you've never experienced it unless you're standing between the choir and the person catching it, and you're wondering, do I go or do I not go? So you can look online for that one, because these were recorded, and yours truly was the person in the center there. I've been told I handled it very well. It was quite the experience, I will say, and loved every moment of that service, and just to be part of that legacy. Moving forward, if you're not tired, believe you me, I am. Moving on to the 16th, the next day, I Lift Every Voice Legacy. We actually sponsored them last year for their MLK Hour. I'm a part of that group, MLK Experience. We had a morning program and an evening event. This time it was at the Edmonds Waterfront Center. Just a beautiful facility, and it lives up to its name. It is all but literally on the waterfront. There's a walkway that I think that keeps it from falling into the water. And it was a building that was just actively alive. Probably had well over 500 folks participate. I did not have to do anything, but I had the wonderful opportunity of looking like a G-man, because I had the microphone, or excuse me, I keep calling it a microphone, walkie-talkie, an earpiece, and just walking around making sure everyone was okay. And that was also just their way to give me a chance to rest. But it was a beautiful service to bring to this community again. And it was just, it was live streamed in as well, so probably well over, I'm sure I'm underscoring how many people are undercutting how many people were actually on site. Let's see. I do want to pause and say, at level, interesting enough, unexpectedly, I will say, I was acknowledged at the end. They always acknowledge the public officials. The mayor was there. I appreciate that. We had quite a few of our DEI folks with us on site. Carissa, Sam Doyle actually emceed the morning session. She did an amazing job. She made it a family affair, brought her family up on stage to help as well. William was there as well, so we had, I thought, a very good representation of the city. But nonetheless, a comment was made to the entire group at the evening that I was the first elected black person in Mountlake Terrace. And I have told you all this in the past, and I know those of you up here know this, but I'm saying our cities have said this in the past. I'm actually the second. Back in the 80s, we had Mr. Williams on our council, which to me is near and dear to my heart because my grandmother's maiden name is Williams, so I feel like it's a family legacy to have me up here, even though he and I don't think we're related. But nonetheless, it isn't unfair to say I'm the first black official in the last 35 years or so elected. But I'll come back to that point under new business. But it's just to say that I'm very proud of this city, that I can promise you of all the significant things I have had the honor of doing, which I humbly submit has been a lot, this is the first time I have not been the first. And I want to acknowledge that because I have been absolutely the first in a lot of things, starting all the way back in high school and all that good stuff. Nonetheless, moving a little bit forward, today Edmonds College had their MLK tribute, which I was able to attend and acknowledge. Thank you, Mountlake Terrace is in the room. And then last and definitely not least, in this very room, with the thanks of our awesome city staff, we were able to have the Lake Ballinger-Macaleer Creek Watershed Forum in person. We actually did a hybrid, which they did that without the wonderful help of our staff that's here to help us through this process. I thought it went as well can be when you're dealing with online and in person. But I want to give us 3 highlights that come from that, and they get better each time, in my opinion. The first one is we have basically about a year left, meaning this year, where the interlocal agreement will come due, which is an opportunity for us to re-envision our connection to each other. I say that just so you know that in my short tenure with this group as chair, we have brought on Shoreline as a new participant, which was very exciting. And we came very close to having the county join us, and then COVID hit, and so that kind of dissipated for a little bit there. And I believe we were in conversation with Linwood to see if they were interested. All of this is about protecting our watershed. So although we're talking about our end of it, Macaleer Creek, that of course drops down into Lake Forest Park, who's been a strong member with us for a long time, we're really saying, hey, let's pull back and think about this more broadly. In this upcoming ILA will give us that opportunity. And that's the lowest of the coolest parts. Next level up cool is Edmonds reported back to us that their city council recently agreed to put $25,000 towards developing their boat launch on their side of the lake, if you will. For those folks who have ever used that, and some of you had no choice but to use that when we had shut ours down to make ours as beautiful as it is, probably already know that that's huge to hear that they're going to develop some of that. They actually even have a place to fish. It's a little bench, but they said they're going to look at fixing that as well, which is exciting. And that's the second level of pretty cool. And the top cool piece, which is unveiling the same way they did at our session this afternoon, which is also to let us know that the City Council, Edmonds City Council, approved $200,000 for Ballinger Lake Park improvements, and they look very much forward to working with this council to figure out how do we best use that money. Which when we pull back and we think about, I think we already heard the Army Corps of Engineers approving that $5.5 million to get Hall Creek going. Of course, all the beautiful work that we're doing, the trail is now open to our senior center, to the parking lot. It's just wonderful to know that we're really thinking about the entire lake, which, for the record, a little bit off and not as cool on the ladder, but significant for sure. There's an abandoned house on the on the 104 highway side that's also in Edmonds that they're working on fixing as well, if you will, buying that property out and fixing that area up. But it's just to say that we are getting to the mayor's wonderful article in the Herald talking about perhaps folks one day will walk Ballinger Lake, and it's just to know that folks take that seriously, and by my account, putting your money towards it is the truest way that you show you're sincere. So my thanks to the Edmonds Council for City Council for having that wisdom to say, hey, we should be investing in that lake that's up on the hill from their perspective when they've got that beautiful sound in front of them. But they have turned around and said, hey, we need to put some money towards that lake. And so $200,000 on the table, approved at this point to beautify and fix their side, but blends into our side as well. There's no boundary there per se. And I hope that definitely covered my report. Yes, into my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. On January 5th, I attended the Economic Alliance of Snohomish County's legislative kickoff. It was down at the Everett waterfront.
Indigo. Indigo Hotel.
Oh, yeah, the Hotel Indigo is beautiful, beautiful views, and just really good turnout. I mean, it's been a long several years, and it is really nice to start to come back to some of these events. I think it was the very first event I went to after I was sworn in as a council member here in 2020, and so it was really nice to go back and see the room full, and to hear about their priorities for the legislative session, hear from 4 of our elected officials from across the county, with different perspectives, but also, a willingness to come together and work on issues. And so I appreciated being able to see the mayor and sit next to her and see lots of other folks. We saw Shelley Helder there, who is now working with EASC. So that was kind of a cool thing to learn about. And I think that is all I have from that. And then on the 12th, I attended our council work session, and that completes my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Sonmore.
Thank you. My liaison reports involve the lodging tax, RFA, the finance, and the left one, all that have been talked about in the last 2 weeks. So for the RFA, we attended a meeting on the 5th and on the 12th, and the 12th is when we talked to the fire commissioners, or some of them, and the board about putting the fire RFA on the ballot. So thank you for voting on that at our last meeting. And then left one was January 10th, where we reviewed medical claims for former fire and police that happened many years ago, but the claims are still coming in for now for their medical claims. It was, you probably already know what left one is, so I won't go into details. And then the finance committee, we had a meeting tonight. And then just with the lodging tax, thank you for supporting the arts and Terrace and supporting and giving them funding. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem. Tuesday, January 10th, I attended the Left One Retirement Board. The 12th was our workshop, Thursday the 12th. And then tonight, I attended the Arts Advisory Commission meeting as the liaison, and I'm here with you now. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the, when was, the 5th, I guess, January 5th, we had the Puget Sound Regional Council and Growth Policy Board meeting. We covered the Puget Sound recovery and actions to take, reviewed the land use and smart growth. Some of the actions we should be taking to help Puget Sound recovery is looking at land use and utilizing smart growth, protecting sensitive land, wastewater and storm water systems, and removing fish passage barriers. Then we also reviewed the regional equity strategy, and which I have talked about in the past from the executive board reports. At any rate, let's see, what else have we done? Snohomish County City's executive board has had several discussions leading up to our meeting on this coming Thursday night. Hopefully, we'll be seeing most of you there. And then we had our finance committee meeting just prior to this meeting. I think that concludes my report.
Thank you. Okay, so for my report, on January 4th, I attended the South Snohomish County Mayor's meeting. And on the 5th, I attended the Economic Alliance of Legislative Kickoff over at Hotel Indigo. And that was a really great event, seeing everybody in person. And then later on that afternoon, I attended the Community Transit Board meeting. And then on the 6th, Friday the 6th, I attended the Seashore Transportation Forum. And on the 13th, I attended the Korean American Day celebration in Edmonds. quite a few elected officials were invited, and it was great to see elected officials from Tukwila, SeaTac, Bellevue, and so forth. It was really a great event. And then on the 14th, I spent my whole day with the Access group and learning a lot. And I'm really hoping that we can do something with this group, because our goal is to prevent violence in youth. And there's a lot of different things that we can do, and this is one of them. On the 16th, I attended which is last night, I attended the Martin Luther King Lift Every Voice event over at the Edmonds Waterfront Center. And again, what a show. It was really an amazing show. And one thing that I took away from it was when the two MCs are on the stage, one is Donnie and the other is Richard Taylor. And Richard Taylor, the younger one, says, you can see the difference in generations, because he has paper and I have an iPhone. And that's how he's reading his comments, and Donnie is shuffling through all the papers. It's such a great event, and I wish that more people will go. But we had a great turnout from Mountlake Terrace, so I am really proud. That's the end of my report. Okay, so next is new business. Does anyone have any new business? Councilmember Woodard.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two. The first one I already brought up, which is just formally putting it here, and the idea of you doing a state of the state or state of this city. I'm just putting that out there in the record for new business as something to consider. And then the second one goes back to me being the second African-American. And from that, I was thinking about this space specifically. When I came on council, of course, we were up the hill renting. But what I appreciated about that space, especially as a closeted introvert, is I could look at those composites and see myself in the legacy of this city. And I'm missing that, which is my way of saying, exactly, let's reply all and delete junk.
Sorry.
Expenditure approval list, January 4th, 2023
Sorry,
council
I have
meeting.
no
Oh,
idea
good.
what it's doing.
Janella Lewis, the DocuSign
I'm
DSE
leaving.
Maybe just turn your mic off at least so it's not going in the microphone. Yeah. All good.
I promised her I would do this, and I just touched it.
Nonetheless, where I'm going with this is it maybe is already in the works and just unbeknownst to me, but I'm going to call this, hey, what's going on? It'd be wonderful. I think we have a beautiful wall space right there to put those gorgeous composites back up. They dated, I want to say, all the way back to the founding of the city, if I remember correctly. And it's, you know, just beautiful. It's a chance to engage with the city in a different way. I think you all have figured out my language of love is photographs. And so, yes, I look forward to seeing our lovely faces up there as well, but to go all the way back and watch the hairstyles change and watch the clothings change and go through cycles, but to also put yourself back in that time and say, well, when we're up here talking about a decision that was made in 1990, you can kind of look at that and get a better idea for where were they at. So just kind of putting that back out there, that I think we're missing the character. It's a beautiful building, but we haven't made it ours yet. And I would argue that those composites make it ours. And I would love to see us figure out where to display those somewhere back in this chamber, as I think we were space limited at the rental, which is my way of saying, so I guess you could put it somewhere else. But I actually appreciated that it was in the room with us, because I felt like we pulled them into the space with us as we made our decisions, or at least as we were hearing past conversations resurface in the present tense. That's my
Question, were these individual portraits or council
No,
portraits?
they were composites, so it was, I think it was mostly just the
It was
mayors,
plaques.
as I think
It was
about
plaques.
it. Yeah,
With the council members' names underneath it.
yeah, I was gonna say, I felt like we were somehow in the space, but It was at minimum the mayor. So somewhere around here, there's these really big composites of, I remember there at least being 4. I mean, that's my mind's eye, but I wouldn't doubt how many they are.
It had a picture of the mayor, and then underneath it, it had council members during the time of that mayor.
Yeah, there it
if I remember correctly. You need to turn that on.
There was quite a few of them, so, and then there were all our budget awards, too.
Mhm.
So the real takeaway, I hope, is, again, it's a beautiful space, but we haven't made it ours. It's like we're in almost forgetting that. We own this place. We can do what we want. If I want to put a scratch on the wall, don't do that. That's ours to deal with, not the landlords, in the spirit of landlords and having to deal with that. So I would love for us to say, hey, we are officially in this building. Let's make it clear that that's the case and put some character back on the wall. In this case, literal characters on the wall.
And to follow up on that, we have a lot of artwork that I don't see up on the walls either. I thought those were going to go up sooner or later. Anyone else? Councilmember Samor?
It was brought up at our last meeting about the salary commission, and I just wanted to, so I had to go look it up. And when you do have a salary commission, it is for every 4 years, and many years we didn't have a salary commission, and we didn't get raises. And so it is good to have a salary commission, because then they look at the council's raises, because I think we went like 9 or 10 years without a raise. So this year's raise is $19 for the entire year, and it will be looked at again in two more years, I think it is. So I just wanted to put it out there that we do strive to do the best we can with our budget, and council is very cognizant of what we spend and what we don't spend, and we do take our salary seriously, but we don't do it for the money. And so I just wanted to point what our raise was for this year. So thank you.
Anyone else? I just want to mention that, again, back in Edmonds, they're having a Lunar New Year this Saturday. And the lion dance, the massive monkeys are going to be there, the breakdancing team, and so forth. And this is the year of the rabbit, so it's a very, very comforting year. Year of the tiger was, a lot more aggressive, but then you become the year of the rabbit. And I know that because we have tigers and rabbits in my family. I think that is it for me. Anyone else? All right, if there's nothing else, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Meeting's adjourned.